So, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Hump Day version of the Rant Network. And in today's, what is the one word do you think can cause fear in adults? You know what that word is, Stuart?
No.
Change. Change. People don't like change, Stuart. And you know who really doesn't like change? The Democrats. The Democrats are petrified that if you change what's going on in Washington today, they'll be exposed. People will actually uncover the truth, and then the truth might hurt. Welcome back to the Rant Network, everybody. I am David Solomon. He is Stuart Brisgell. We are, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic. If you heard our last conversation, and uncensored, we just go, fly by the seat of our pants often around here. We do not rehearse. We do not cut it and edit. What you see is what you get, and that's the beauty of the Rant Network. Because we dive into news, pop culture, and so much more. And ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we'll get contentious, and sometimes we'll agree to such a point that you're actually shocked. All right, so sit back and relax. We're probably going to agree on this topic because, frankly, Stuart, and the same thing is going to happen here in Canada. I can see it. I give Donald Trump credit. Last episode, I ripped his ass because I didn't care for his tariff status, the way he dealt with things. And I still argued this point. I still had to argue this with a bunch of people last night. But the one thing I actually am admiring is the rocket speed in which they're going through department by department to find the stink. If you walk into the State Department, if you walk into the Department of Education, if you walk into the Department of Defense, if you walk into any of these departments, it stinks. No, it's not shit, people. It's shitty attitudes. It's shitty administration. It's shoddy use of taxpayers' dollars, which includes allegedly $50 million worth of condoms going to Gaza. Like, whoever came up with this bozo idea, which, of course, the left discredits and all the liberal media says, of course, it's got to be made up. It's probably a Trump, illusion. But if that's really true, you guys should be freaking out almost as much as the Dems are freaking out today, Stuart. What say you on this topic, my friend?
As I spin around my newsroom in my office here, and as many of you know, I've got a lot of news going on. And a few people have said, oh, you only got Fox News running. And I'm like, no, I've got Fox News, I got Bloomberg, I got Reuters, I got CNBC. I have every single outlet running. But you know who else is running? Every politician from the Democratic Party. And they're running to get into the shadows as quick as they can. Because you know what? When you put a bunch of 24-year-olds and early 20s that are computer Bunsen bun honeydews to go through the budget, to go through different department before Donald Trump puts in his emissaries, his cabinet, they are finding the fraud. They're finding the fraud that doesn't directly affect Americans. It affects international fraud. It affects fraud within the United States, the people that are dead. It's cleaning out the bowels of the swamp, something that Donald Trump ran on in 2015, but wasn't seasoned enough for politics. And I guess there's some truth to this. Donald Trump didn't hail from a lifetime fiefdom. He worked, fought, and built businesses. And you know what? From The View to CNBC, people love to have Donald Trump on because he told you in an unorthodox way the truth. You may not have liked the way he delivered it. And I hear this constantly, even in my own professional life. Stuart, why did you have to say that so bluntly? Why did you have to be so vulgar? And I mean, what do you mean I was vulgar? I told you I didn't like what you wore. It's disgusting. That's not vulgar. That's the truth. And in doing so, Donald Trump created the spin. What's the spin? The man just points, says, and you end up shrugging your shoulders going, how did he know this? How did he figure this out? How did he get us to come to this new reality? The two-state solution has failed for 70 years. The two-state concept has failed since its inception and consistently fails. In fact, according to Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, they're going to have an even bigger, badder October 7th in the future. Let me tell you something. America occupying Gaza, let me tell you something, is running fear into the Middle East. It's not the Middle East that are the normal Middle Easterners that we've come to know and love. This is to those that have a radical agenda, like the Democrats in the United States, the party that seems to be utterly lost in its own skin. Can't even figure out what the diversity rules are they created. You know, if you heard a couple of days ago, 2 males, 2 females, 1 of each, and then 1 non-binary, non-this, non-that. You know, maybe you've also seen on Instagram, there's a guy that gets pulled over, says, I identify as a cat. You know, the Democrats have lost their way. And as Donald Trump and his party gets out there to push an American first, which, by the way, it's not just America who benefits. Canada is going to benefit from this by having a more robust border, being more attentive to these illicit drugs that are killing Canadians every single day like they are killing Americans. Is it that Donald Trump cares more about his population than the Canadian government? Maybe. And that's why little Justin's going to be gone in a month and a half. But if you look at even the Western world, Donald Trump in a single press conference has dominated the news and the news cycle, and no one knows where to go. What will end up happening to Gaza, David? I don't know. But you want to know one thing? Well, the way Gaza is now, you're not displacing anyone. Hamas has murdered and written the death warrant on almost everyone that lives there by the way in which they conducted and utilized foreign aid. That's your money and my money that went out to support terrorists. You got to draw the line.
Well, you know what, Stuart? What you said is so apropos, but you didn't go as far as I thought you would, and I'm really surprised this morning. Because let's talk about what Donald Trump has really done in shaking the trees really hard, and look at how many of the fruit has fallen out. So let's talk about the Department of Education, and he said he campaigned he was going to shut it down. Well, right now he's going through it with a fine-tooth comb, finding problems. Now he hasn't shut it down yet, but he's already found problems. And one of the things that he wants to do, and he said it during the campaign, and he reiterated from his first few days, is if you're going to promote hate and you're not going to protect students on campus, and anti-Semitism is the most prevalent right now, but it could be Asian students, it could be Hispanic students, it doesn't make a difference, then funding is going to be cut. Wow, there's a shocker. We asked the Biden administration to do that, and they said no. And if you look at the infestation in Columbia University, is a great example of why you need to really do these type of things. The next part, Doge. I mean, you look at what Elon Musk has done, and the accusations that keep coming out, and I heard it again last night, is all this is to line up the pockets of the billionaires. Just like Reagan's trickle-down economics was for billionaires, this is going to be for billionaires. It's a way for them to pay down the taxes so they get more money in billionaire pockets. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, youch. Okay? No. Now, Stuart, what you put up there for me for the Starlink deal, that's old already. Guess what? These threats, forget about it for these threats for just a second. But here's the catch, folks. Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump did in his first 4 years. He's challenging the status quo. And one of the status quo, for example, is pulling out of the United Nations Human Rights Council. And people are freaking out. Again, the Dems are freaking out. How dare you? We need to be there. Why? Do you know who runs the United Nations Human Rights Council, Stuart? Iran. They're chairing. This is like letting a prisoner chair a prison. Like, what is that? But that is the United Nations. And he pulled funding out of UNRWA, and he's pulled the funding out of the United Nations, and he said, if you don't change, we don't play. Now, the Democrats are running around like a chicken, screaming and yelling and creating noise, still freaking out over this thing about transgenders in sports that The president ran on and said, we're going to protect women.
Yeah.
So all that the Dems have done, and if you look, Stuart, at the most recent election now, who's running the Democratic Party?
Oh,
They
Martin.
brought leaders in that have learned absolutely nothing. They've not doubled down, they've quadrupled down on these idiotic, nonsensical policies that folks in the United States said, no, thank you. Now, if you're going to sit here and tell me, well, no, we did this for America, and who is really fighting for this? Come on, let's get real. The Democrats have lost so much touch with the average American. It really doesn't matter. Now, you said something about Trump's policies will impact Canada. Let me tell you, as a Canadian, I don't want to hear that because Donald Trump put America first, and he should. That's his job.
Yep.
His job isn't to make Canada better. His job is to make United States better. And
Wow.
people are really frustrated that Donald Trump is doing things that's going to hurt Canada. Well, yes and no. But it's up to our leaders here to counter what Donald Trump is doing. And I don't mean tariffs and this and that. Policies, economic policies, social policies. Let's not be stupid. But you know what? The Democrats in the US and the liberals in Canada have gone down a rabbit hole. And now for them to admit it that they're wrong. Now, Stuart, in the green room, we talked about, I said to you, follow the money trail. Because what the Democrats are really afraid of is that they're going to be exposed for what they really are. Whores. They're taking money. When AOC and Maxine Waters and Bernie Sanders all freak out, and you said it, Maxine Waters is calling for an insurrection, violence in the streets. Like you said it in the green room. Is this January 6th? Why are you calling for violence in the streets? You accuse the sitting president of the United States of inciting an insurrection. What do? That's the Dems. Do as I say, not as I do. Your favorite expression, rules for me and not for thee. So what's going to happen, Stuart, when these Democrats are going to be exposed for what they really are?
Well, the language, you brought up Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, where they talked about pharma.
I didn't talk about the Navajo lady, but you brought her up.
I just want to give this here. The headlines from I don't take money from big pharma is now been changed. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren aren't top recipients of pharmaceutical industries. So what you need to understand, and I wanted to bring that up, and I knew you would laugh your rear end off. You need to understand. David and I, who are accused of being right-wing radicals and have been taken off channels as a result, really are just two ordinary people in two different countries talking about the insanity of modern life, which is the intro that we normally run with. And I got to tell you, in coming to, which I believe, David, it's this week, is our anniversary of starting our first broadcast.
Yep.
It's now going on our 5th year. We have spent the last 4 years talking about issues that are not being discussed at the dinner table as they once were. People turning off news because it's no longer news. The White House adding podcasts and alternative media to the press room to bring in the conversation that's missing from the dinner table. And the news needs to be news. This is an editorial rant. We don't call ourselves a news network. We call ourselves the Rant Network for a reason. And David, though I didn't tell you this in the green room before we got started, I want you to take note.
Okay.
David and I don't always get along. We argue. We don't always agree on a topic, as you may have seen the last couple episodes. And I let David think he has one over on me because he claims I don't listen. And I pick on him for wearing the sweaters and earmuffs. Listen, David and I are like you and everyone else listening or watching this broadcast. We want to know what's going on. We want to have it explained to us in a way that we can understand. And you know what, David? I thank you for the last 4 years.
No worries.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Listen, buddy, I'm going to tell you something funny. You wanted to see Freak Out? So I will tell you that until probably a couple of weeks ago, many people have never heard of the Ruthless podcast. Now, I've listened to these four guys. They're good. I like them a lot. And they were in the media room, the new media room, whatever they're going to call it right now. And they were offered to ask the first question. Of course, guess who freaked out? The left, the liberal media. You know what the comment was? These aren't journalists. They didn't go to journalism school. You're right. They didn't get brainwashed by these lefty, crazy professors. They actually have a brain on their own and they know how to actually do the job. And that upsets people. And again, how I opened up this rant for today was the word change scares people. And the media is discovering that you have changed. You've gone down the rabbit hole. You've gone rogue. And now when people are pulling back, it scares you. And the Democrats are finding the same thing, Stuart. You've gone too far. And now Donald Trump's pulling you back. Now, look, you look at just to look at the RFK confirmation hearings, right? Why is he being? Why are people freaking out? Because all he wants to do is question the what is there. Question. So they accuse him of being an anti-vaxxer. He could be an anti-vaxxer. Who cares? If he's questioning vaccines, isn't that good? Is he not because he wants to get rid of them? Is he questioning the validity of what was said about COVID, what is said about our food habits, what is said about a whole bunch of things? And that scares the Dems. So what you said about Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders saying, I don't get bribes. I mean, oh, no, not bribes. I get money from the pharmaceuticals. Of course you're getting money from the pharmaceuticals. I don't care if you're number 1 or number 50. You're getting money. And for that, Stuart, that scares them. So when you cut, again, follow the money, people, and watch what happens. Stuart, last word to you, my friend.
The less money that we spend on things that don't help America and the modern world and fill the pockets of thieves, the more pushback you're going to get. That's my wrap.
I love it. All right, Stuart, folks, listen, we'll be back here on Friday. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. And by the way, if you have a Democratic congressperson or senator that you've elected, ask the questions, poke them today. What money are you getting from large corp? What money are you getting to be bribed for your policies? Watch them faces freak out. And on that note, folks, just listen, we're growing. Our social channels, we're seeing more and more response from you. We're loving it. The change now at Facebook and Instagram and all that has really opened up our loves. And so if you know folks who really want to just go, send them a link to this broadcast. Go to therentnetwork.com. Join us on YouTube, Rumble. We's there. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. And until Friday, my friends, Stuart, where's that music? We got to wrap it up. Until next time, folks, have yourself a wonderful day.